For years, Melania Trump has been an enigma in American public life. Poised, reserved, and fiercely private, she has managed to keep herself and her family, particularly her only son Barron Trump, away from the relentless glare of media scrutiny. Unlike most political families who often thrive on the public eye, Melania carved a different path. While Donald Trump dominated headlines and political debates worldwide, Melania chose stillness over spectacle, quietude over controversy. But in recent months, something shifted. A subtle change in the way the former First Lady carried herself during rare appearances, a spark of vulnerability when Barron's name was mentioned. It all led to mounting speculation. Where was Barron now? Why had Melania been so determined to shield him from the world? And most importantly, what was really happening behind the closed doors of the Trump family estate? These questions reached a fever pitch when Melania Trump finally broke her silence. In a heartfelt and deeply revealing statement, she spoke openly about her son. A moment that stunned not only political observers but millions of Americans who had always wondered about the young man who grew up in the most powerful residence on earth yet remained a mystery to all. What she said didn't just answer questions. It sparked new ones, challenged long-held assumptions, and left many in awe of her strength as a mother. For the first time, the world glimpsed a side of Melania few had ever seen: emotional, protective, and undeniably human. This is the untold story of why Melania Trump chose silence, what she finally revealed, and why her words about Barron Trump have everyone talking. The year was January 2021, and America was in transition. After 4 years of unprecedented political drama, Donald Trump's presidency came to an end. The country turned its eyes to the incoming administration, but millions were just as curious about what would happen to the Trumps once they stepped away from the power and chaos of Washington, D.C. For Melania Trump, leaving the White House was more than the end of an era, it was the beginning of a long-awaited retreat from public life. While Donald remained in the spotlight, continuing rallies, shaping the Republican Party, and hinting at a possible return to politics, Melania had a different plan. Her priority was, and had always been, Barron. The transition was anything but ordinary. Unlike other first families who often returned to a quiet suburban life, the Trumps moved into a world of continued scrutiny. Cameras followed them from Washington to Florida, documenting their arrival at Mar-a-Lago, the luxurious Palm Beach estate that would become their new sanctuary. But even in those brief glimpses, one thing was clear: Melania was determined to draw an invisible curtain around her son. Barron, then just 15 years old, towered over his mother in height yet clung to the privacy she so fiercely guarded. For Melania, this wasn't just about avoiding gossip columns or paparazzi lenses. It was about giving Barron what few children of presidents had ever truly experienced: a chance at normalcy. She understood the price of fame better than anyone. Her modeling career had taught her how harsh and unforgiving the media could be, and marrying Donald Trump only magnified that reality. So, when they settled in Florida, Melania made an unspoken vow: Barron would live his teenage years away from the circus that defined much of his childhood. She limited his appearances, shielded him from social media, and ensured that his education and personal life remained a secret. Even as Donald continued to dominate headlines, Barron's name rarely appeared. And that was exactly how Melania wanted it. Still, whispers persisted. Reporters speculated about Barron's schooling, his personality, even his relationship with his father. Social media fueled theories, some benign and others cruel. Yet through it all, Melania remained silent, a silence so complete that it became its own kind of statement. To the outside world, it seemed like Melania had vanished with Barron into a gilded cage, shutting out the chaos and judgment of a polarized nation. But behind the gates of Mar-a-Lago, a different story was unfolding. A story of a mother raising a son under extraordinary circumstances, and the decisions that would shape his future forever. It would take years for Melania to share that story, and when she finally did, it shocked everyone. From the very beginning of Donald Trump's political rise, Melania Trump made her priorities clear. Her son came first. In 2016, as Donald prepared for the campaign that would change their lives forever, Melania famously stayed behind in New York, refusing to uproot Barron mid-school year. It was an unusual move for a candidate's spouse, but to Melania, stability mattered more than optics. Those early choices were a window into her character as a mother. She was deliberate, cautious, and fiercely protective. She wasn't interested in the glamour of Washington, nor in playing the traditional First Lady role with boundless public appearances. Melania's world revolved around one thing: her child's well-being. Unlike Donald, who thrived in the spotlight, Melania recoiled from it. She understood its power, its ability to distort reality and magnify imperfections. Having lived through decades of media attention as a model and later as Mrs. Trump, she knew the cost of fame, especially for a child growing up under the relentless glare of the press. So when Donald won the presidency, Melania made a choice that would define the next 4 years of their lives. She would shield Barron from public life as much as possible. Even as they moved into the most famous house in the world, Melania worked tirelessly to create a private sanctuary for him. A place where he could just be a kid, far removed from the chaos outside the White House gates. Insiders have often remarked on Melania's devotion to Barron. She wasn't a distant or ceremonial mother. She attended parent-teacher conferences, monitored his homework, and managed his schedule with precision. Even as the world speculated about politics and power, Melania was focused on everyday concerns, ensuring Barron ate well, got enough sleep, and maintained a sense of normalcy in a life that was anything but normal. But this fierce protectiveness came at a cost. Critics accused Melania of being aloof, of neglecting her role as First Lady. They mocked her for her silence and labeled her as cold and detached. Yet behind the scenes, those who knew her best saw a different story, a woman consumed by the singular mission of protecting her child from a world eager to tear him apart. For Melania, the presidency was temporary. Motherhood was forever. And that belief shaped every decision she made during those turbulent years. Barron William Trump entered the world of fame long before he could comprehend it. Born in March 2006, he was the youngest child of Donald Trump and the only child of Melania. His early life was marked by privilege but also by extraordinary circumstances. From the lavish Trump Tower penthouse to being thrust into the global spotlight at just 10 years old when his father announced his candidacy, Barron's childhood was unlike any other. Yet, despite the opulence and the cameras, Barron remained a mystery. Even during his father's presidency, when the children of presidents often become public figures, Barron was rarely seen or heard from. Unlike the Obama daughters or the Bush twins, Barron didn't give interviews, didn't appear in glossy magazine spreads, and had no public social media presence. Instead, what little the world saw came in fleeting glimpses: a solemn young boy walking across the White House lawn, towering over his parents as he grew into his teens, and attending the occasional official event by Melania's side. Those rare sightings only fueled the fascination. People speculated about everything: his personality, his education, even his voice. Behind the scenes, Melania was creating a life for Barron far removed from the chaos of politics. He attended private schools, engaged in sports, and developed a passion for technology and soccer. Teachers described him as intelligent, reserved, and deeply focused. Friends said he was polite but preferred the company of a close circle rather than crowds. Yet the more Melania shielded him, the more curious the world became. Barron became a symbol of mystery in a family that thrived on spectacle. And while his half-siblings, Donald Jr., Ivanka, Eric, and Tiffany, embraced public life, Barron remained in the shadows, exactly where Melania wanted him. But as Barron grew older, the silence surrounding him became deafening. People wondered, was Melania hiding something? Or was she simply a mother doing everything in her power to protect her child from a world that had little mercy for innocence? The truth, as Melania would one day reveal, was far more complex and deeply human. In the age of social media, mystery breeds conspiracy. And Barron Trump became the subject of countless rumors, many of them cruel and unfounded. From wild theories about his health to baseless claims about his personality, the internet was relentless. Every photograph was dissected, every rare appearance analyzed. Was he unhappy? Was he shy? Was he being groomed for something? Bloggers and self-styled insiders spun elaborate stories, some painting him as a genius prodigy, others as a recluse trapped in a golden cage. Melania, true to form, said nothing. She ignored the noise, never once indulging the speculation. But that silence only added fuel to the fire. Commentators began questioning whether the First Lady's secrecy was normal or something to worry about. It wasn't just the media, it was the culture of instant commentary, where every public figure's life is treated as open property. The idea that a presidential child could remain private seemed almost revolutionary. And yet, that was exactly what Melania was fighting for. There were moments when the rumors crossed the line, when Melania's maternal instinct was pushed to its limits. Friends say she was deeply hurt by the cruelty of online chatter. But rather than respond publicly, she doubled down on her mission to shield Barron. The world could speculate all it wanted. She would not sacrifice her son's peace of mind for anyone's entertainment. Still, the pressure mounted. People demanded answers. Who was Barron Trump, really? What was he like? And why, in an era of oversharing, did his mother refuse to reveal even the smallest detail? The answer would come eventually, but on Melania's terms, not the world's. To some, Melania's silence was puzzling. To others, it was a masterstroke of media strategy. But to those closest to her, it was neither. It was necessity. Melania understood better than anyone the nature of fame, and the way it consumes everything it touches. She had seen what relentless exposure did to other political families, how children became tabloid fodder, their mistakes amplified for public amusement. She refused to let that happen to Barron. Her philosophy was simple: the less they know, the less they can hurt. Every photograph released, every public moment allowed was carefully curated. There were no accidents, no spontaneous appearances. If Barron was seen, it was because Melania permitted it, and only under the most controlled circumstances. But this level of protection came with challenges. Some political advisors urged Melania to allow Barron more visibility, arguing it would make the family appear more relatable. Melania refused. To her, Barron was not a prop for political optics, he was her child. In many ways, her silence was an act of rebellion, not just against the media, but against a culture that demanded constant access to every corner of a public figure's life. While others chased validation through interviews and social media, Melania retreated. It was a choice that earned her criticism, but one she never regretted. What the world didn't know, however, was that Melania's silence wasn't just about privacy. It was about something deeper, something she would reveal only years later, when the time was right. And when she did, it would leave everyone stunned. March 2024 marked a significant turning point for the Trump family. Barron William Trump, the boy the world had only seen in fleeting glimpses, turned 18. For most teenagers, this milestone signals freedom, college, new responsibilities, and the first taste of adulthood. But for Barron, it carried an entirely different weight. Turning 18 meant no longer being considered a minor. For years, the excuse of protecting a child had shielded Melania from prying questions. Now, the narrative was changing. The media, which had been somewhat restrained due to Barron's age, suddenly saw no barriers. Headlines blared, "Barron Trump becomes an adult. What's next?" Paparazzi renewed their pursuit, and social media buzzed with speculation. For Melania, this moment was bittersweet. On one hand, she had succeeded in her mission. She had given her son a childhood largely free from the chaos of fame. On the other, she knew the transition to adulthood would strip away some of that protection. Barron would now make his own choices, walk his own path. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. As Barron celebrated privately with family at Mar-a-Lago, Melania began to reflect on the years of silence that had defined her motherhood. Was it time to speak? To answer the questions that had lingered for so long? She didn't owe the world anything, but perhaps sharing a piece of her truth would end the wild speculation and in some way, empower her son to step into his future without the shadow of endless rumors. And so, weeks after Barron's birthday, Melania made a decision that would send shockwaves through the media. She would finally speak publicly about her son. What she said would not only surprise the world, it would redefine how people saw her as a mother, a woman, and a former first lady. When the announcement came, it was unexpected. There was no flashy press conference, no grand stage. Instead, Melania chose a carefully planned sit-down interview with a respected journalist known for fairness and discretion. The setting was intimate, soft lighting, neutral tones, and no political undertones. This wasn't about campaigns or power, it was about family. The world tuned in, expecting a polished and measured response. What they got was raw honesty. Melania spoke slowly, her accent pronounced but her words deliberate. For many years, I stay quiet because I believe a child needs privacy. Barron was never a political child, he was only a child. People say many things, many lies, and I stay silent because that is the best protection for him. But now he is a young man, and I want the world to know the truth. Then came the moment that left everyone stunned. Melania revealed something no one had anticipated. Barron has always been very independent. People think maybe he will go into politics because of his father, but he does not want that life. He is very private like me. He loves technology, he loves sports, and he has big dreams that are very different from what people expect. Her words ended years of speculation about Barron's future. She made it clear, there would be no political dynasty, no public spotlight by choice. Barron had his own path, and it had nothing to do with Washington. But what shocked people most wasn't just the revelation about his future, it was the emotion in Melania's voice. For the first time, the world saw a mother stripped of her usual composure, speaking with vulnerability and love. She admitted to sleepless nights, to fears about raising a child under the harsh gaze of public judgment, and to the constant struggle of balancing security with normalcy. Within minutes, social media exploded. Hashtags like #MelaniaSpeaks and #BarronTrump trended worldwide. Commentators called it the most revealing moment of Melania's public life. Some praised her honesty, while others questioned why she waited so long. But one thing was certain, everyone was talking. Melania didn't stop at addressing the rumors. She painted a picture of Barron's aspirations, a vision that stunned many who assumed he would follow in his father's footsteps. Barron is very smart, very focused. He wants to study international business and technology. He is very interested in how the world connects through innovation. He has always loved computers, and he is very athletic, so sports are important to him too. But he does not like the spotlight. That is not his dream. This revelation changed the narrative overnight. Instead of seeing Barron as a future political figure or media personality, people began to view him as a young man carving his own identity, far from the corridors of power and headlines. Melania also hinted at his educational plans, confirming that Barron would likely attend college in the United States, possibly on the East Coast, though she refused to name specific institutions for security reasons. He wants to be independent. I teach him to work hard, to earn what he wants, and to never expect things because of his name. He knows his name is big, but I tell him, your actions must be bigger. It was a rare glimpse into Melania's parenting philosophy and Barron's ambitions, a sharp contrast to the image of privilege often associated with the Trump family. Perhaps the most surprising part of Melania's revelation was what she shared about Barron's relationship with his father, Donald Trump. For years, people speculated about how involved Donald was in his youngest son's life, especially given his hectic schedule and public persona. Melania painted a more nuanced picture. Donald loves Barron very much. They have strong connection, but they are different personalities. Barron is quiet, private. Donald is. Donald, she said with a rare smile. She revealed that while Donald wasn't the hands-on parent in the traditional sense, he always made time for Barron in his own way. They bonded over golf, over sports conversations, and more recently, over business ideas. Donald teaches him about business, about being strong. He tells Barron, never let people take advantage of you. He is proud of Barron, very proud. It was a softer, more intimate portrayal of Donald Trump, a father who, despite his larger-than-life image, cherished his time with his youngest son. For critics who often painted Donald as disconnected from family life, this was a striking counterpoint. In the same interview, Melania shared details that revealed the heart of her parenting philosophy. Details that stunned those who assumed Barron grew up in unchecked luxury. She spoke about her Slovenian roots, the values her parents instilled in her, and how those traditions shaped her motherhood. I grow up in small town, with very simple life. My parents teach me respect, hard work, and humility. I want the same for Barron, even if his life is very different. So I make rules. I teach him to say thank you, to respect people, to work for what he wants. Unlike many children of wealth, Barron didn't get everything he asked for. Melania ensured he understood responsibility. She limited his time on social media, encouraged reading and sports, and insisted on education as a priority. Yes, he has privilege, but I tell him, privilege is not forever. Character is forever. Melania also revealed her personal involvement in Barron's life. Despite staff and resources, she chose to be a hands-on mother. Cooking meals, helping with school projects, and even personally managing his schedule during his younger years. I am his mother first, everything else second, she said firmly. This glimpse into her private world reshaped public perception. To many, Melania had always been an aloof figure, distant and detached. But her words told a different story, a devoted mother who fought quietly, fiercely, and effectively for her son's happiness and well-being. The moment Melania Trump's interview aired, the reaction was electric. Within minutes, it dominated global headlines. News outlets from Washington to London and beyond dissected every word, every expression, every detail she revealed about Barron Trump. For millions, this was the first time they had heard Melania speak at length since leaving the White House. And it wasn't about politics or policy, it was about something far more intimate, her son. Social media erupted in a frenzy. Influencers, political commentators, and parenting advocates weighed in. Some hailed Melania as a model mother, praising her ability to shield her child from the harshest aspects of fame. You may not like her politics, but as a mom, she did what any good parent would do, one widely shared tweet read. Another wrote, for the first time, Melania Trump feels real. Vulnerable. Human. But praise was not universal. Critics accused her of selective transparency, arguing that she had spent years avoiding the public eye only to speak now, when it could generate positive publicity. Others questioned the timing, noting that Donald Trump was once again in the political spotlight. Why now? Why this story? Everything about the Trumps is strategic, one political analyst commented on a major news network. Still, the prevailing tone was one of fascination rather than outrage. For years, the mystery surrounding Barron Trump had fueled speculation. Now, for the first time, people had real answers. and they were far more ordinary and far more relatable than anyone expected. Perhaps the most telling reaction came from parents across America. Many expressed admiration for Melania's commitment to protecting her son in a world that thrives on oversharing. Parenting blogs and family magazines praised her as a warrior mom who put her child before power, fame, and politics. In a culture obsessed with access, Melania Trump had done something rare. She had preserved her child's innocence. And for that, even her harshest critics found it hard not to respect her. The Trump family has always been synonymous with spectacle. From Donald's flamboyant business persona to his controversial presidency, every move was magnified under the world's gaze. But Melania's revelation introduced a new dimension, one that softened the sharp edges of the Trump brand. Political strategists quickly noted the shift. For years, Melania had been portrayed as cold, detached, even unwilling to engage. The interview shattered that image, replacing it with one of vulnerability, grace, and maternal devotion. Suddenly, Melania was not just the glamorous former First Lady. She was a mother who sacrificed the allure of public life for her son's well-being. For Donald Trump, the impact was equally profound. While the former president remained a polarizing figure, Melania's words painted him in a surprisingly tender light. Her anecdotes about his pride in Barron, their golf outings, and their conversations about life and business offered a glimpse of Donald Trump as a father, not just a political figure. Supporters seized on this new narrative, framing the Trumps as a close-knit family with strong values. Conservative commentators lauded Melania as the embodiment of traditional motherhood, while more moderate voices praised her ability to rise above political noise for the sake of family. Of course, there were skeptics. Some argued that the timing of the interview was no coincidence, coming at a moment when Donald was facing renewed legal and political challenges. Was Melania's candor a genuine act of maternal honesty, or a calculated move to humanize the Trump name ahead of another potential election campaign? Regardless of motive, the effect was undeniable. Overnight, Melania's approval ratings, largely stagnant since leaving Washington, spiked. Media outlets that once criticized her for being distant now applauded her courage. And Barron, once the family's greatest enigma, emerged as its most intriguing figure, an independent young man determined to carve his own path. Beyond the headlines and political analysis, one element of Melania's interview stood out: the emotion. For a woman so often described as stoic, even icy, the vulnerability she displayed was striking. As she spoke about the years of shielding Barron from relentless scrutiny, her voice trembled ever so slightly. She admitted to moments of doubt, of sleepless nights spent worrying about whether she was doing the right thing. "Sometimes I feel guilty," she confessed. "I ask myself, did I protect him too much? Did I make him stronger, or did I make him hide? But I always choose what I think is best for him." There were other revelations, hints of the toll public life had taken on her family. Melania spoke of the isolation she felt as First Lady, of the criticism that rained down not just on her husband but on her as well. She admitted that these attacks sometimes reached Barron, despite her best efforts. "Children hear things. They see things. Even when you try to protect them, they know more than you want them to know," she said softly. It was in those moments that the audience glimpsed the human cost of political fame. The cameras captured her eyes glistening as she recalled the harshest rumors about her son, the ones that no parent should ever have to endure. For a woman who had built her public persona on elegance and restraint, these flashes of raw honesty were shocking and deeply moving. They reminded the world that behind the headlines, the power and the wealth, there were real struggles, real fears and real sacrifices. Perhaps the most unexpected part of the interview was the small, tender stories Melania shared. Moments that revealed the Trumps not as political icons, but as a family. She spoke of quiet evenings at Mar-a-Lago, where Barron preferred a simple dinner with his parents over lavish banquets. She described how he loved soccer and would spend hours practicing on the estate's lawns, sometimes convincing Donald to join in despite his preference for golf. "He is very competitive," Melania said with a proud smile. "He wants to win. Even when he plays soccer with his father, he must win." There were stories of traditions too: Slovenian dishes Melania cooked on special occasions, holidays spent away from the cameras, and conversations at the dinner table about everything from school projects to world events. "People think our life is only glamour," she said, "but we have very normal moments. We sit together, we eat, we talk about school, about life. Barron likes history, so he asks many questions. He is curious, very smart." These intimate details transformed the narrative. For years, the Trumps had been seen as larger-than-life figures, almost untouchable. But in these anecdotes, they became something far simpler, and far more relatable: a family trying to hold on to normalcy in a world determined to deny them that privilege. It was a rare, humanizing glimpse behind the Golden Gates. a glimpse that, for many, changed everything they thought they knew about Melania Trump, her son, and the family that once occupied the most famous house in America. If you enjoyed this untold story of Melania Trump and her revelation about Barron, make sure to give this video a like. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And let us know your thoughts in the comments below.